Welcome to the Guru.
Okay, welcome to Mtn Top Chats. I am so excited today. We have a wonderful guest coming up, and the news, the stack of stuff on the desk is crazy high. There's no way I'm going to get through it today. We're going to push through the main topics, get to as much as we possibly can. We're starting off, though, with existing home sales. So we have January numbers. We have February numbers. We obviously we don't have March numbers because, well, we're still living March. So we don't have the March numbers yet. But as of January and February, all those numbers are in the pocket now. And existing home sales are down for the year, which don't be too distressed. This probably is what you expected for existing home sales to be down because there's nothing on the freaking market. It's kind of crazy out there. There's just the inventory is so low that we are setting brand new records of all time. These are historically low records for inventory. Yes, there is more inventory in the market now than January. So someone was asking me the other day, is there more inventory now than January? Well, yes, but that's because there always is. As we head in towards spring, more inventory hits. But that still doesn't answer the problem of, year over year or even historically, how much inventory should we have at this point in time? Well, these numbers are extraordinarily low. I mean, low like crazy. Sales are down from month to month. We are down from January. Now, this is the end of February numbers. We are down nationally, and this area in the Northwest mirrors nationally pretty well, except a little steeper. Like nationally, though, was 7.2% that we're down in sales because there just isn't any inventory on the market. There's lots of things. Hang on, later in the show, we're going to be talking about the war update and the problems with supply chains in the war and what's going on with real estate. Who would think that a war halfway around the world is going to impact the local markets here? But it does. And of course, we have rising interest rates. Again, an impact. Although the rise in interest rate, I got to be honest with the rise in interest rates. We still have interest so low. It's only, impacting those people that haven't seen higher interest rates. My first home was double digit. That's about 10%. My first home was double digit interest rates, and it was considered a good deal still, because real estate, even in double digit, can still be an extraordinarily good deal. So inventories very, very low. However, inventories are nationally slightly up at about 1.7 months of inventory on a national scale. When we look at our local markets in Oregon, in the Portland metro area, we have unfortunately, about 3 weeks in some areas. In East County pockets, we have 10 or 11 days of inventory. And that is just so nothing. Do you even have time to take your client out and have a conversation about? I feel so bad because you take your client out, you visit some homes, and you have to tell them you need to make a decision on the biggest investment of your lifetime in the next few minutes, because there's so little inventory going on out there that it's going to go away, and there's going to be 20, 30 offers on that inventory. So another number to throw at you today is median sales price. Now, this is important. This is one of those mind-blowing things. And this is on a national scale, that the median sale price went up again this month. We are up to $357,300 on a median sale price nationally. That's not Portland, that's national.
So, Rod, doesn't that mean that for people that are being priced out of the Portland home market or some of the other hot spots in Oregon, they're going to start looking somewhere else?
Absolutely. No question. For the Portland market, our average sale price, our median sale price is $564. So it's $200,000 more than the national median price. But the national median price is up again. Our market's up again. And the big win to that, here's the next big shoe to drop, is that as of the end of February, that was the 120th month. And just think about this for a second. At the end of February, that was the 120th consecutive month that the median existing sale price for homes went up. This is the longest time on records ever that we've had a sustained increase of home prices going up, for not for new homes, but for existing homes. 120 months. March, I predict, will be the 121st month. I think this will continue throughout this year. This is going to be difficult to say. It continues beyond that. I don't know. That is a different kind of calculation altogether. But 120 months of consistency in the market. Oregon is hot. Oregon, the Northwest is on fire all over the place. Inventories, I talk to people all over the state, and inventories are just this crazy low, and they get lots of offers everywhere in the state. I like to take a look at the national stats, just because nationally we can take a look how the trend is going on and what's actually happening with trends. But it is just wild to see what's happening with trends right now. The war update that we have later on, we're going to find out the stocks have become volatile. We're going to talk about the volatility of stocks and why people are coming back. But way more exciting than that right now, we have a guest interview. Her name is Ashleigh Fordham. And I am so excited to interview Ashleigh today. And we are going to get into Ashleigh and all of her details and what's going on with Ashleigh right after this break.
So, Rod, what does it mean? 7 minutes to a new career.
Well, in 7 minutes, we can have a cup of coffee. We can talk career goals and how we're going to help you make the biggest career move in your life.
That's right. There's a lot of things that Mountain Hood Realty has to offer, and Rod is a ball of energy.
I love the career, and I want to share with you my passion for building your business bigger than you ever thought it could be.
Come spend 7 minutes with us. We look forward to it.
Talk to you soon.
Rod, the Guru is back with Ashleigh.
Ashleigh, welcome to Mountain Top Chats. I am so excited that you're here with us today.
Rod, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh my God. I never thought you would carve out time to be with us on Mountain Top Chats. I'm just wowed by it. I do want to announce right out of the gate here that you are running for a really important position.
That I am. Yes, I'm running for Oregon Realtors President-elect at our spring governance meeting next month, actually. So I'm very excited and very honored, actually.
Of course, it's an incredibly powerful position, and you are well suited for this position. So let's back up the clock a little bit, Ashleigh, and let's talk about what did you do before real estate, and then we'll get into real estate and how this has been happening for you. So what did you do before real estate?
Okay, so I actually started in real estate when I was 19. So I didn't have a lot of career history prior to real estate, but I did work at Nordstrom, actually here in Salem.
Oh, you're a Nordstrom girl.
Yeah. So in high school, I started working in the women's shoe department of Nordstrom, and I worked my way up to management and decided that ultimately retail wasn't where I wanted to be. So I ended up getting a job with a company called Tiger Claw, and they make hidden deck fasteners. So
I missed it. What was it?
Tiger Claw. They make hidden deck fasteners. So so rather than just screwing down boards, you have these fasteners that connect the boards together. And so I was a regional sales coordinator for them for a long time, and I traveled all over the place. I had territory from Washington, Oregon, California, Alaska, and Hawaii.
Wow.
And our company was based out of Bristol, Connecticut. So I was always on the go. And while that was really fun, I'm not suited for being on the road all the time.
Me. I got to tell you, Ashleigh, not to cut you off here, but you and I have some major thing in common.
Really?
I also got into real estate, but in my own personal way. At 19 years old, I wanted to buy a house so bad. And at 19 years old, I found a private person that would sell me my first home on a private contract when I was 19 years old.
That doesn't surprise me. You're a go-getter though. Like you're like, okay, this is what I want to do. How do I get there? So
yeah, that's right.
Real estate is one of those things where, it's an incredible opportunity for community, and it's an incredible tool for options. I mean, the sky is the limit in real estate. And if you can dream it, you can do it.
And, that's something I love about real estate. I also love it about law. As you know, I'm an attorney, but both careers are very similar in nature. You can carve out your own path. Well, look, back over to you, Ashleigh. So you decided to get into real estate at 19.
Yes.
What did the family think of that?
My family always kind of knew that I was a serial entrepreneur and that I was never going to be like sitting at a desk for my entire career. So I actually started at a really small family firm here in Salem, and I started in the property management sector, and we had just over 600 doors that we were managing.
Oh my goodness.
And it's funny because the owner of the company must have seen something in me that I hadn't quite identified yet, because he came to me a couple years in after I'd sort of like worked my way through all of the things, and I was kind of the general rover, right? So if you needed accounting, I could do it. If you needed applications process, I could do it. There wasn't anything in that department that I wasn't able to tackle. And he came to me and said, I think you'd be a really good real estate agent. And I was like, no. And what's funny about that is, being 19 at the time, I was like, I don't want to work on weekends. I didn't want to work on weekends.
Weekends are out.
I was like, I don't want to work on weekends, and he's like, no. I'm going to teach you everything I know. I'm going to pay for your class. And I'm going to help you be successful. I really want you to take the weekend to think about it. And so I did. And I came back and I said, you know what? I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to give it a year and see if I like it. And, I honestly fell in love with it. And that was in 2010. And it was a brutal market, as you know.
Oh, yes.
I think I cried every day for the first 6 months. It's fun to tell people that they're underwater in their house so substantially.
Well, believe me, one of my homes that I bought was in 2006. And by 10, I was crying right along with you about the house I bought.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the beautiful thing about real estate, is that it's so cyclical and it's never the same thing twice, but it's the safest asset to invest in, because
absolutely. And by the way, by the time 2018 came along, I sold that house and made a fortune.
Yep. So, I mean, real estate's a long game. I think that most people think it's a quick get rich scheme, and it's not. It's never been that. And so anyway, yeah. So I got into real estate, fell in love with it. And then I was a non-competing principal broker at a large firm here in Salem where I managed 42 agents. And there were aspects of that I really loved. But I missed this. I missed the market conversation. I missed serving clients. And so by the way,
are you still doing property management?
People People ask me that all the time. I manage my own rentals for my husband and I. And that might be something we do in the future, but for now, no.
Yeah, well, and Karen and I at Mountain Realty, we do some property management, although it's the small end. Mostly we managed our own, but now we are managing for other people, and it's a hard job.
It is. It's super hard. I mean, your client is actually the owner of the property, but you also want to have great relationships with your tenants, and that's a super tough job to balance. And the landlord-tenant law makes it difficult, and you want to make sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and it's just it's a colorful job. You can't put it in a.
Real estate is one of the toughest areas, Ashleigh, to manage people, because everybody feels like they're an independent contractor, and technically they are, and yet they have to report to somebody. How do you manage this balance? I mean, I know you manage a firm now, but how do you manage the balance of independent contractor and yet responsibility and liability and all that?
I think for us, we founded our company with the idea that there's really great brokers out there that have really solid books of business and want to do the right thing. So for us, when we're looking to hire somebody, it's always about the integrity of who that person is, right? Because I think that ultimately is going to make or break your company and the level of, E&O insurance claims that you have to have and so on and so forth. So, I think it's really challenging to manage independent contractors. And I think it's less about managing them and more about supporting them and giving them really sound advice and making sure that they're adhering to the nature of the law and just being clear in whatever that expectation is. If the company policy is this, then that's the policy that we adhere to. So I think it's less about managing and more about support and expectations.
I love that. We feel the same way, that we need to support the people, and sometimes you have to step in with some hard advice, but mostly it's about support.
Yep, absolutely. And just being the source of the source, I think is, like you may not have all the answers, but you're like, you know what? I know someone who's smarter than me and I will find it. Hang tight, I'll get back to you.
Ashleigh, why would you go down? So you're making great money. You're doing this great job at your own company, but why would you start down the path of politics?
Oh, that's a great question. I never envisioned myself running for this role. It's not something that I ever was. I woke up one day and said, I'm gonna become Oregon Realtors president and I'm gonna run for it. But I think sometimes you get really passionate about your industry and you're very clear about maybe some challenges or obstacles that are great opportunities for improvement. And I think that's where I'm at. I tend to be a bridge builder. I tend to see things big picture. And our industry has changed a lot in the last couple of years inherently. That, the onset of COVID has brought about a lot of changes in our industry. And there's a lot of chaos and a lot of noise.
The only thing that they say is constant is change. And our industry is absolutely a reflection of that.
Absolutely. And I think, it's an opportunity to just consistently level up and change and make sure that the service that we're providing to our members is helpful in creating businesses that thrive and allows them to be productive, not only in their own individual business, but to also become the voice of real estate. I think that there's a huge opportunity for us to continue to be that voice as we enter a new era. I mean, there's no doubt that realtors are fundamental at what we do. I mean, we're absolutely necessary to the life cycle of a transaction, and the value that we provide is unprecedented.
Do you think there's a voice lacking in real estate right now?
I think that there's a lot of chaos. And so I think that what we as realtors need to do is focus on the value that not only the association is providing to our membership, but also the value that realtors are providing in the trenches. I think that there's been a lot of noise. I'm sure Rod. I mean, there's just all these things that are coming at us all the time. And we have an opportunity to really say, you know what, we're realtors. We take a pledge for a reason, and we're holding ourselves to a higher standard. And I do think that there's an opportunity for us to be a little bit more clear about that.
Well, just for an example, the love letters, which has been recent legislation that we felt like we had this cleared up, and now there's a court ruling that has stopped it, that the love letters are back. And to remind everybody, love letters are those things that the buyers write to the sellers to try to convince to sell their home to. But love letters are not a to tell the truth document, unfortunately. People can say anything.
Yeah.
And then I'm just using that as an example. There's so much noise out there. Well, why would a love letter be bad? Well, because they're not a to tell. Nobody's out there saying that these are true.
Right. I mean, you could say anything you wanted in those letters. And I think it's just, we're in a highly competitive market. I know you were talking about inventory earlier in your show and the severe lack of it. And, consequently, that's made housing very unaffordable for a lot of people. In fact, the Salem and Corvallis markets are the least affordable markets in our state and very high up there in our country because the wage doesn't translate to the cost of housing. And so, there's just a lot of chaos when you're talking about those things. And to your point, the love letters are an opportunity for buyers to say what they think is going to be motivated for the seller to accept their offer. And so whether you're a fan of love letters or not, I think that us taking a stand and saying, hey, this is an opportunity for some fair housing violation is important for us to have conversations. Now, whether or not that passes, we don't have any say in the outcome of that, but we can at least talk about the best practices surrounding that particular topic.
I love the fact that the conversation is on the table and we're having that conversation.
Yeah. I mean, we need to level up the bar. We need to have those conversations as professionals, as realtors, as an association, because we are here to do the hard work, right? We sit at the table where really tough conversations are being had, and it's not always fun and it's not always easy, but it's important because it's the integrity of our business that's at stake. And so we've got to be the gatekeepers of that.
Well, I'll tell you, Ashleigh, being a realtor is hard work. It's very much hard work. Mm-hmm. So where do you think, let's just say for a second that you're elected and, I know you've got your hand in there and we're pushing for you. So if you're elected, what is your platform going to look like?
Oh, well, I think for one thing, we need a sense of unity from the state. We've had a lot of division just by things that are beyond our control, right? So we have the reopening of our state, which is very excited. I know everybody is ready to get back to in-person networking meetings, but consequently, I mean, it's felt the last couple of years that we've had some division, and I don't think it's been intentional, but I think that it's an opportunity for us to get back in person, to start talking about some of these issues in person, building relationships, because that's what we do best. We are relationship builders. And so when our state feels disconnected because of these COVID things and the fact that we haven't been able to really get together and network, I think that that's a huge opportunity for us. But in addition to that, we have a lot of opportunity. There's lots of conversation about industry standard forms. So really, for me, the biggest opportunity that I see is the unity of our state, making sure that we reopen and transition well, and that we're treating our association work like a business. That for me is a huge piece of cruciality to the success of our industry moving forward.
It certainly goes to credibility of what's happening with our industry.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Specifically, I mean, I look at the lawsuit that we're having at the national level with NAR. I mean, that's a very good example of just some of the tough conversations that are being had about our industry. And so,
you're talking about, just to remind everybody, you're talking about the SAC versus the BAC.
Yep. So, I mean, we have really incredible business-minded people sitting in our associations, and I think we need to leverage them. We need to have some tough conversations about what the future of our state association looks like, and how we can better provide clarity among the chaos.
We have a tough conversation going on right now, and the board of directors just got done voting this in, that we are looking at trying to do a combined effort, if you will, at the state level for one contract across the state. Mm-hmm. Do you view this as a good thing for the membership?
I do. I think that we can't control the past. It's obvious that the past has happened, and so now we need to figure out how to move forward. But one thing that is clear is having one form for the entire state is going to be crucial to the success of our industry, because again, we're trying to eliminate the noise and the chaos surrounding that. But if you have two, it just creates that ambiguity and some cross confusion and issues. So I think I'm in favor of having one form, and I'm in favor of it being a member benefit. Honestly, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for us to provide something that fits the entire state. And I think that, there's some massive opportunity there.
Lots of people in some of the rural regions of our state, Eastern Oregon, Medford areas, some of the and coastal areas would say this is going to be a difficult thing to pull together. Do you think this is overcomable? Yes.
I think, it's the nature of competition, right? So inevitably, I think there will be one form that is predominantly used. And I think it's going to be a little bit interesting and dicey for a couple of months. But I think, there's a lot of variables at work that we don't have any control over the outcome of those things, right? We can't say, yes, This is going to happen. We're going to have one form, blah, blah. But I do think that ultimately, if there's a form out there, whichever route it is, if there's a form out there that best serves the consumer, that is easy for realtors to understand and explain, and is just a quality product, then the market's going to dictate that, right? The market's going to.
It seems like with some additive pieces like addendums that could be added in, we could overcome many of these rural area issues.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important to have representation from those rural areas, because some of the things that they're struggling with is not what the metropolitan areas are struggling with. And certainly here in Salem, for example, we have a very interesting dynamic of real property, right? We have some condos, we have some townhomes, we have a lot of rural property, we also have a lot of residential property. So some of the issues that we see aren't necessarily reflective of everything in other markets. And so I feel like a good understanding of some of the things that could be improved on, some of the things that are lacking. And of course, there are specific areas like the forms that you need in Central Oregon are not going to apply to the coast or to the valley even, but there are a lot of, area specific things that need to be addressed within those documents that is an opportunity for us to talk about creating.
I was talking to some brokers over east of Bend, and they were talking about some water rights issues, and very specific water rights issues that will have to be addressed. That may not be issues that come up in the Portland area at all. Anyway, I agree. I think these things are overcomable, and I'm glad to hear you supporting that. I do want to ask you, Ashleigh, before we're done today, about you have a family and you have kids.
Yeah.
What's going on with the family?
Okay, so I do. So my husband is actually my business partner, and he's also a full-time realtor here at our company. So it's nice because he's a little bit of, we complement each other in our skill set. So it's nice to have somebody who enjoys like the super nerdy stuff, right? The in-depth spreadsheets. Although I can do them and I understand them and I run a company, I get it. I don't love to do it. So it's nice to just have but together we have a 7-year-old son who is very into swimming, and we have a 3-year-old daughter who is undecided as far as what she enjoys specifically, but right now it's cats and dresses. So yeah.
How do you balance an office and you and your husband both work together? How do you get along?
People ask us that all the time, and I think it's really special because Ryan and I have a very unique relationship in that we understand where each other's strengths are, and we understand each other's weaknesses very, very respectfully. And so it's nice because he knows when I need him to pick up the slack in one area, or I know when I need to pick up the slack in one area for him. So we don't fight. I mean, people are like, you guys must fight. I'm like, no, we don't. Like, it's cool with your best friend every single day. And it's nice to have mutual respect for one another. And like, nope, that's his lane. I'm going to stay out of it. I'll ask you questions.
So you each have your own areas. It's almost like working different businesses.
Yep, 100%. So what fills my cup up isn't what fills his cup up. So, he would never be running for this position. He doesn't enjoy work. But
but it can't all be about work. You must de-stress at some point. You go for wine tastings, do you go for hikes? What do you do to bring the volume down a little?
So we do a lot of swim meets for my son. So that's always really fun. We are outside. We are just moving outside to a 2.5 acre parcel here in Salem. So that's exciting. And we're pretty boring. Like we're homebodies by nature, but we do love to go on adventures. And sometimes that's hiking. Sometimes that's, just being outside throwing a football. But we're pretty boring. Like we don't really drink. We don't really party. We work and then we go home and hang with our kids. So,
yeah.
I
love it. I love it.
But I think key to balance really, honestly, Rod, is only doing things that fill your cup up. So if you get that like excitement in your gut that says, you know what, I feel like I'm supposed to be doing this, then you do it because it doesn't feel like work then. It's when you start saying yes to everything and all of those things just detract from what actually makes you feel like you're moving the needle, that it feels like work. So being very selective.
And you have other family in the area as well?
I do. Yeah. So actually, coincidentally enough, my sister-in-law is our office manager and transaction coordinator here at our company.
And so it's all in the family here going on.
My mother-in-law is also a realtor here at our company. So it is all in the family. And my parents
I love it.
Yeah. So
I was not aware of that with you and your family. That it's that tied together. Does that cause extra stress? What do they think of you running for this political position?
They think I'm crazy. I think my husband is really, really proud because I think he's just recognized something in me that is extremely passionate. And I just genuinely care about this association and its membership. And I love our state. I mean, I've lived here my whole life. And so the idea that I could potentially be representing all of you is such an incredible honor. And it's not something that I went into lightly. I mean, I definitely went to him and said, what do you think? And he said, yes, like go for it, do it. You have my full support. And I would not be able to do it without him. But they're all really, they just know, they're like, yep, you're supposed to be doing that. So go do it.
Ashleigh, for full disclosure, I do want to say I've had an opportunity to serve on some committees with you. Yeah. I don't have any other links with you, your company, anything like that, but I've served on committee, and you are always one of the most passionate people at the table. I mean, everyone knows when Ashleigh is at the table.
It's true. I'm not the person that's going to speak just to speak. But I'm not the person that wants to change just for change, but I am passionate and I see so much opportunity to just thrive. And I think, unfortunately, part of that thriving has to be those difficult conversations, and I'm willing to have them. I'm willing to do the hard work, and I'm committed. I think that's the other thing is you're never going to get anything less than 150% of me. So, I know sometimes
and I can tell you that is true. When she comes at it 150%. You will know what she means. You'll know what she wants, and you'll know how she plans to get it.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that, Rod. I'm always going to wear my heart on my sleeve, and it's, I come with a business mindset, but I also have a really big heart for this organization and this association. I'm incredibly excited at this opportunity. And it's not something that I take lightly, but man, I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to leave it all on the field. So.
Well, Ashleigh, thank you so much for being with us. I wish we had more time because I've got the next 1,000 questions waiting here. But it is such an honor that you have been here with us today. And if people want to contact you, how do they contact you?
Oh, they can. They're welcome to call me anytime. So my cell phone number is 503-930-5512. Or they can follow me on Instagram or Facebook, Ashleigh Fordham. So it's easy to find. And then, email ashleighfordham@windermere.com. So
beautiful. Yeah. And Claire, do we have her email on the banner?
No, I don't.
We can. What was the email again, Ashleigh?
So it's Ashleigh, ASHLEIGH, Fordham, FORDHAM, at Windermere, WINDERMERE.com.
We'll try to get that in the notes for everybody. Ashleigh, thank you, and good luck on the campaign.
Thank you. I so appreciate your time, and man, you're the best. I always love serving with you. So thank you.
You were so kind, Ashleigh. Thank you so much.
I'm out of my heart. So just know you're one of the gems. So I appreciate it.
You are so kind. Thank you, Ashleigh.
All right. Thanks, Rod. Have a good day. Bye, Karen.
Bye. Okay, dokie.
Did you get it in the banner, Karen?
I have something in the banner.
Awesome. Wow, that is so fun getting to interview Ashleigh. She is a ball of energy. And I'll tell everybody, this is exactly what she's like. We have two great candidates this year in Oregon. I am so proud of both of them. The other one is Greg Whistler, by the way. I am proud of both candidates. They are amazing, amazing people. And Karen, you got that on the banner?
I just switched off of it.
Oh, okay. You had it in the banner.
Yeah.
So I'm headed over now to the war update and what's going on with the whole Ukrainian war with Russia happening. I want to say our prayers and hopes are with the people of Ukraine. That this is just amazing to see what's happening, the fight going on. I'm so sorry for these people, but again, our hopes and prayers are with them. All right, so moving over to real estate and the war update, there is a ton of news out there on real estate and the war, and what does it actually mean, and what's going on with the market. I told you we would get to it, and here we go. So the real estate and the war has brought in a lot of uncertainty in the stock market and what's happening, and it's brought in a lot of considerations about what would happen. Well, what would happen has happened, and that is the supply chains continue to be disrupted in coming this direction, hurting the building of homes. You wonder how could the war in the Ukraine hurt home sales here? It's because we can't finish some of the homes or start building some of them. We can't even get enough parts or things for them. It's on a slow boat. I'll just use that term, slow boat, for construction, because the things are coming in slower. So supply chains have been majorly disrupted. And we noticed that last week. There is more news on the disruption now, and that is hurting inventory. Inventory, of course, we were at a historic low, keep saying it, but it's pushing inventory even further because of the pressures. We can't get enough supplies coming in through that whole supply chain network. And you wouldn't think that this one part of the world would have that much to do with it, but it does. It actually is putting quite a bit of pressure on what's happening. Okay, so there's volatility now in the stock market. In fact, there's a lot of volatility in the stock market. I mean, with the ruble being devalued to, does it have any value now, Karen? I mean, the ruble's down. There's basically no value. So that has also pushed other markets. A lot of disruption when it comes to the stock markets. Well, when the stock market gets disrupted and the bond market gets disrupted, and both have been disrupted, guess what? Well, real estate is back on top. Here we're having some of the hottest sellers market of all time. I mean, ever on record. Hottest sellers market certainly in 30 years, but lowest inventory ever on record. And this is the longest period of growth, 120 months and rolling of constant, consistent growth. Every single month we've had growth. And now we have volatility in the market due to a war. And that is causing investors to want to come back to real estate. What will that mean for you in your market? Well, I'll tell you, it's going to mean that there's going to even be less inventory. Excuse me. Let me rephrase that. Not less inventory. There's going to be more people fighting over the current inventory, which is even harder. So you have the inventory that's out there, and you have the supply chain shortage for it. But now you have more people fighting over the inventory that exists. That makes it even harder. I mean, I don't know how to step it up even to a more difficult level than what just happened. And I would have never thought that a war somewhere would put volatility into the market. I would expect volatility, but I would not have expected it to make real estate even hotter than what it has been. Now we're gonna so that's the war update. We have an update on the love letters and what's going on with that. More updates on that, and that is going to be right after this message.
So, Rod, how can a cup of coffee improve my career in real estate?
Well, one cup of coffee is how we start our mornings, and it's not a stranger in real estate. We have coffee with our clients all the time. Even bigger than that, we can sit down with one cup of coffee, talk about your goals, make your business bigger, and push you to heights that you can't even believe.
That's right. And I'll tell you, working for Rod and I, you can be pushed because he's a workhorse.
I love real estate, and I want to share my passion with building your career in real estate as soon as we can pour the next cup of coffee.
So how about a cup of coffee with us?
I look forward to having a cup of coffee with you and having a discussion of a career change as soon as possible.
Thank you. So Rod is back to discuss love letters with us.
Okay, so love letters. We had the love letters coming out on January 1, the rule against it with the Oregon legislature. And just to remind everybody, the love letters are these letters that buyers put together to send across the table to the sellers, explaining how much they love the home. And they use lots of reasoning for it, but lots of the reasoning includes things like protected classes. So this was looked at as a bad thing. So Oregon made a rule against them and said, no more love letters. We are stopping this process. We don't want this to be a consideration. Well, a federal judge got a hold of it. A suit was put up to a federal judge. And a judge said, stop the stop, if you will. So now love letters are back in. Well, the update is what is going on with the halt? What is going on with this whole stoppage of love letters? Why has it been stopped? Well, the problem is that we're looking at strict scrutiny. Now, strict scrutiny is one of those things that we all have to be thankful for. So I wanted to talk to you about briefly, what does it mean to have strict scrutiny? Well, this is a First Amendment issue because this is a person, the buyers of a home wanting to speak their rights to someone else in a process. And it's a government body that has stepped in and said, you can't speak. That's where we have a test. And the test is called strict scrutiny. And that's where the government can only make a rule if it is what we call narrowly tailored and necessary. Now, this is a good thing before people jump in and say, oh, well, this is horrible. Well, it's a good thing because we don't want your personal speech to be stopped randomly by government. That's not how it's supposed to work. We're supposed to be able to speak our mind, and I don't care what amendment it is or what the issue is. You should be able to speak your mind without the government stepping in and saying you can't, unless it is a very narrowly tailored ruling. Well, this is being looked at by most people, by lots of people out there. I'll just say, I haven't counted, so it's by tremendous amounts of people, though, are looking at this. And I'll tell you, your guru agrees with it. It wasn't narrow.
So, Rod, can you give us an example of what something that's not narrowly tailored?
Or maybe that is narrowly tailored, because this one right here is not narrowly tailored.
Okay.
So something that would be narrowly tailored would be instead of saying no love letters, maybe the legislature needed to say you cannot have a love letter that has in it a description of your disability. That would be very narrow. That would explain, okay, you can't write about this, or maybe you can't write about your church and your religion in that letter. So stopping letters from having the content that would include things like your religion, your church, your family status, any of the protected classes. So they could say, none of the protected classes can come up in these letters. But the question to the judge was, we believe we can write letters without these things coming up. And of course, the judge said, well, that would be possible. And since it's possible, that means it wasn't tailored narrowly enough. And does that make some sense?
Oh, sure.
Sure. I know it gets kind of crazy and how complicated it is, but this is a good thing for all of us, that we want things coming out of our government to be narrow. And that is, we don't want the government to be making statements that stop us from doing things that are overly broad. For example, if the government came out and said, Rod, you can't ride a bicycle anymore. Well, that's really broad. Why can't I ride a bicycle? Well, maybe it's I can't ride a bicycle without a helmet. Well, now we're getting more narrow because there's a protection issue going on here. And they could come out with something based upon public health and have that. Then they're narrowing in based upon a reasoning of public health. Okay, so many of us believe that this will be stricken down and that the Oregon legislature will have to go back. We don't know yet exactly what they're going to do, other than it has simply been stricken at this point, and love letters are back in. So, I was saying, do love letters matter to you? I would like to hear from you in the comments whether love letters actually matter. And have you used them to help build your business? Now, what about love letters and the to tell the truth concept? Do love letters actually tell the truth? And, well, there isn't a committee out there that researches these. So to think that love letters are a to tell the truth document, well, there's nobody that would ever know that. Which is another problem with the love letter, is they're expressing this love. And it's not hard, by the way. You can go and Google, and if you're interested in this, you should. You should go and Google Oregon love letters, and you'll find lots of, I did it just this morning, lots of examples. There's some videos on there you can watch about letters that were written. And one of them particularly said how a letter came in, they decided to sell their grandma's house their mother's house to someone that said they would care for the garden in a particular way, even though there's nothing legally making them do that. So the children decided to sell this house to these people because of the letter they wrote in. Well, they walk by the house regularly. The garden hasn't been well cared for. In fact, it's horrible. And the people were interviewed and they said, well, we understand it's not a contractual matter. We can't make them care for the garden the way grandma did, but they said they would in the love letter. Now, this is a great example, though, of the problem with these love letters is they make statements that sound contractual, but they're actually not contractual at all. I mean, there's nothing about them that to hold someone's feet to the fire. They can say, I'll do this, I'll do that. I love the house. I'm going to maintain the paint. I'm going to maintain the porch. I'm going to maintain the garden. But there's nothing in the contract making them do this. This is nothing more than someone just making empty promises. And they might do it. They might. But there's nothing making them do it. And it made the children, and you can find that on Google, it made the children very sad to find out they had made the choice to sell to those people based upon that letter. And that letter ended up not being what really happened. They said they didn't want to sell to a flipper. They didn't want to sell to this variety of things because their grandma had owned this house 30 some years. Well, they ended up selling to someone who said they'd care for the garden, but didn't actually care for the garden. Okay, that's the current love letters going on. Love to hear from you right now. Take a minute, like the show. Love it if you like the show. If you have questions, by the way, for our guest today, you can find that link. It was earlier in the show, the link to her email and her phone number. She said what her phone number is. You can contact her with that. And if you have show suggestions about future shows or people you'd like us to interview, please let me know. I do have an announcement going on right now, though, and that is spring has arrived. It is the 22nd of March. I can get pretty excited about this. And if you're with us at 7:30 this morning for our live show, I was talking about spring arriving and curb appeal. And I want to talk about that here briefly right now. And spring has arrived. Usually spring, I have to take a look on the calendar this time. It's either the 21st or 22nd of March. Here we are. We're in spring. And today in the Portland market, I don't know about wherever you're at, but today in the Portland market, we are having a day close to 70 degrees. That is incredible. I mean that is just mind-blowing. It is a one shot up to almost 70, but so fun. But this brings on, though, flowers, things that are blooming, the beauty of the area. And I believe that I live in one of the most beautiful areas, but different areas I've been in across the United States, whether it's Florida or DC or California, they all are beautiful in their own right. The cherry blossoms right now have come out. My wife was mentioning, I can't see them very well anymore, but the cherry blossoms are out and they're so wonderful. So curb appeal, though this all brings on the concept and idea of curb appeal, you're representing a house for sale. And what is the value of curb appeal? Because curb appeal is a big, powerful thing to start thinking about. Well, curb appeal includes flowers and color. And are you bringing in flowers and color to help your sale? What about on patios and decks where we bring on barbecues and other outdoor things and outdoor events that are going on? This brings in so much for real estate. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What are you doing for open houses now? Are you putting on a barbecue for an open house? Have you ever put on a barbecue for an open house? I was at one like 2 years ago. Oh, no. It was longer than that because it was before the coronavirus. We were at a barbecue open house. They had like the whole community coming. I mean, it was like a rave going on. Everyone's showing up. They got this barbecue with ribs and chicken going on. I don't know how much they got for the house, but I'll tell you, they had the attention of the community. And that is something to think about when it comes to curb appeal and what can you do in the spring. As we're heading towards summer, all of these events are coming at us. I've also heard of people putting on, if you have the room for it, putting on local concerts. I want to mention something today. I haven't heard of anybody doing this, but I would love to get some feedback from you. Because, you're always hearing about the wine tastings and the beer tastings. We are in like the Northwest is the coffee capital. The United States overall, we are the coffee center of the universe. We love our coffee. But what about doing a coffee tasting event for an open house? Has anybody done this? By the way, I should check in on the comments, Karen. Let me know if a comment comes in that I need to respond to. But on the coffee tasting event, has anybody done a coffee tasting event? I think this would be such a phenomenal thing. You can make coffee in so many different ways. You can make it, with espresso style. You can make it with a siphon, a percolator, a pour over, a French press. And that's only to mention 4 or 5 ways. There is a ton of ways of making coffee using different grounds. And then, of course, there's the hot method. There's the cold method of making coffee. I just wonder, has anybody put on a coffee tasting event for an open house as a draw to get people in? It seems like it is the time to be doing such a thing like that. Would like to hear from you on a coffee tasting event. Have you put one on, and what's going on with it? Well, I would like to hear from you, by the way, on future events and who you would suggest for us to do. My stack of stuff here is huge, and I'm basically out of time. I'd like to hear from you though on what kind of courses are some of your favorite courses. I don't have time to dig into this today, but I want to talk about some of the favorite NAR courses or local state courses. Now, there is the LARC class, and I teach the LARC a lot. I go around the state teaching the LARC class, and that's always fun. But do you find the LARC class valuable? Next week, I want to dig into this LARC thing. What are you just checking a box on LARC? Or are you actually getting something out of the LARC class? There's a lot of information in the LARC class. I know, I teach it all. I go around the state teaching LARC, and I've done it for years. This is the law and rule required course. I should say it. But are you actually? I'm concerned that people are just checking a box.
How about ethics?
You think people are just checking a box on ethics?
I think so.
Well, that's another one. Of course, I go around the state teaching, and Karen here, as we travel together, Karen here gets to hear it 2 or 3 times by the time I teach it, because I go over all my notes in the car with her. But I'm also concerned that people are just checking a box when it comes to ethics, or do they actually know what's in Article 1? Do they know what zealous advocacy actually means in the ethics? And what about the 30 hours required? Of course, 27 and then plus the 3 of the LARC. What about the required hours that it takes in Oregon, and then you got the required hours in Washington and all the states? Is this helping you do your business? And we will dig into this more next week. This is Mtn Top Chats. I love the fact that you've joined me today. If you hit that like button, I would love that as well. Send me your comment. Follow us on social media, and I'll be talking to you next week.